Grand Rising. Let me get my paper in here so I can write this down. Because I have some things I would like to address. Okay, let's do this here. Okay, so I am going to first introduce myself. My name is Jazzy Gems. Um, I have been creating content for about 5.5, going on 6 years now. I have been studying since I was 18 years old. That would be 1998. I came into knowledge of self in 1998. I've been studying knowledge of self since 1998. When I say knowledge of self, to give you some background about self, and that's a mess that you should have to explain yourself. But when you talk about the Bible, you do have to explain yourself because people automatically get on the defense. People automatically start to feel some type of way, because we can clearly discern that something is not right. Clearly. So let me go ahead. Greet is let me go ahead and just get into the Bible study, okay? Let's get into it. So in Genesis to our knowledge is the first book of the Bible to our knowledge. Now I've done research and found out there are several books that are missing out of Genesis. So we gonna build this study up. So all these videos that are pertaining to the Bible study, I'm gonna put them in order. So notice that this one is part 1. So I'm gonna actually create a playlist so that you could go back and watch the biblical studies from the beginning and map it out. So that is a good thing that we will be able to do that, because if we have any questions, we'll know exactly where to go and look for reference points or things like that. Okay, here we go with this Genesis. So the first thing I will have you know is Genesis. If you break down the word Genesis, it's actually Isis genetics. Okay? So if you're wondering who is Isis, Isis is actually an Egyptian deity. Now I'm going to create a separate deity situation so you could get into that if you need to. But let's continue on. So Isis is a deity, a spiritual deity that actually dwells inside of you. So Isis has been personified. So that means to make it human like. So people can understand that power. People can understand that energy that is Isis, that dwells within you and which dwells is within I, because these are your genetics. So your genetics is actually your DNA. Your genetics is your DEA. Because some people have DNA, some people have DEA, depending on your bloodline. Okay. Um, Also, this is your genetics. This is your biology. This deals with your anatomy, because the way your body's set up, the diseases and disorders that you are subject to in your physical body has everything to do with your genetics. Your genetics has everything to do with your biology. Your biology has everything to do with your genesis, your creation story. your evolution story, the people that you were and you evolved into, because you are an evolution of the soul. Simply, every time you reincarnate, the reincarnation process is called transmigration of the soul. Every time you reincarnate, you are actually evolving the soul because you're going through changes mentally, physically. You're altering your character, you're altering your energy, you're altering who you are becoming. This is what our ancestors called ancient alchemy. Now, alchemy is to be able to use chemistry. Chemistry also is evolution. Chemistry is having chemical changes, having chemical reactions. When you speak, there is a chemical reaction happening. Why? Because your words are penetrating the atmosphere. Your words have an effect on reality. Your words are sulfur. Your words are mercury. Your words are silver. Your words are gold. Your words have all the minerals and elements in them. So your word is literally changing things. This is why in the Bible it talks about the word is God. Because the word is the alchemist. The word is using alchemy. It's do you have the knowledge or not to alchemize the things in your life through your words. So Genesis focus clearly on the alchemist genetics, the genetics of these people, the evolution of these people. This is their historical documents about the lands that they lived in, the lands that they inherited, the blessings. So we're going to run through it. Let's go. So in the beginning was the word. So the word is the progenitor. The word is the originality. The word is the creator of all things. The word is. So the word is a verbal vibration. The word is a verbal frequency. The word is able to be positive or negative. Words can be used together to conjure up spells. Words are powerful. We understand the power of the word. Okay. So moving on, moving forward, let's understand that words are very important here. Let's not be blind to any words. We will break all words down. We will not be afraid of words. We will learn definitions of words. We will learn vocabulary words. We will learn how to dictate words because the word is God. We're not going to sit over here and say God is going to do this and God is going to do that. No, because we understand that the words that are coming out your mouth is the power. The words that's coming out of your energetic field is what's going to change your reality. The words. It say wherever there is God, the devil, it say wherever there are the words of God, the devil has to flee. So clearly in the Bible, it showed you how to vanquish evil with your words. You have to vanquish it with your words. Because if you know that evil cannot exist in the presence of wisdom, then why not use your wise words? Why not tap into your ancient wisdom, your ancestral wisdom? Why not tap into your Aztec technology? You're an ancient being. That's why we're here to learn about this. But let's keep going. So far, you should have about your Genesis. Genesis is gene, Isis. This is your genetics, your biology, your anatomy. This is your physical body. So in your physical body is a karmic vehicle. Okay? Your physical body is a karmic vehicle. And this is where your karma is stored inside of your body, your physical body. And you inherited your physical body from your mother and father, correct? Direct descendants of your mother and father, correct? So from your mother and father, your mother had karma. That's right. Your mother is not perfect. Your mother have made some bad decisions in her life. Your mother has lacked knowledge. Your mother has failed short. Your mother did not always know the right thing to do, did not always know everything. She had to learn through trial and error like everybody else. So therefore, some of the things that she carries inside her genetic bloodline, some of her insecurities, some of her pain, some of her shortcomings, some of her family illnesses, because those are diseases, right? Those were passed on genetically to you, right? Because when we go to the doctor sit and look at us and say, what diseases run in your family? And we sit there and tell them people. We be like, high blood pressure, diabetes, this, that, and the third, whoopty, whoopty, whoop. Because all of these are considered diseases and disorders. Because we was created in perfect peace. We wasn't created with disease. We inherited the diseases and the disorders from the past generation, the ancestors. And I'm going to explain to you how this comes around full circle up to what we're talking about today. But we had to go back to the beginning because I have not been consistent with my YouTube live. So therefore, everybody on YouTube does not know how we got to where we are. So that's why I decided to bring it back and build it up. Because when you're a builder, you can do that, right? Okay, so we're talking about, okay, so in Genesis, we know that the word is God. We know that the word can create things. We know that everything started out in the mind. It was a thought. Once it became a thought, it manifested into physical form, right? That's how we became humans. Thoughts become physical forms. Anything you think of will become physical. That's why you have to learn and teach yourself how to think positive. You have to teach that. Because the world indoctrinated us to think negatively about things. That's the programming that we're under. We were taught to we were misinformed. For a reason, on purpose. Why? Because they understood how the mind works. They understood how the soul works. They understood how the spirit works. They understood how the spirit, soul, and mind are interconnected. Your spirit, mind, and soul is interconnected to my spirit, mind, and soul because we share ancestry somewhere deep down that bloodline. So therefore, we are carrying the same karmic debts. We are so tied to one another. We are experiencing soul contracts, karmic families, karmic relationships. So this is why you was created. It's a karmic relationship. It's a karmic family. It's a soul contract. The soul contract is that you would come here for a time. That's your terms. Time is terms. So that means whether your terms are 3 years old, whether your terms are 58 years old, whether your terms are 9, that is the terms of your soul contract. So that becomes what we call age. Because some of us, when people pass away, we say, oh my God, they went before their time. No, they was on borrowed time. They was on the soul contract. They soul knew exactly how much time they had to do whatever the soul created them to do. Because they were created for soul purpose. So they had to serve soul purpose. Those were the terms and conditions of their soul contract. Whatever was entailed in it. It's inscripted in their DNA, whatever it was. That's their Akashic records, right? Okay, so I do soul contract readings if you're interested. My website link is in the bio if you would like to schedule one-on-one, and I can help you understand yourself according to your soul contract. Okay. Let's keep going. So these are ancient alchemists. In the beginning, what it said in the beginning, God said. So God, aka the being, was already in existence. So this book is letting you know that God was self-created. So when I say seek knowledge of self, you have to create yourself. You have to invent yourself. You have to, mold yourself. You have to decide what you want for yourself and become that. Because it's in you. It has always been in you since the beginning because it's a form of energy that's in you. Since the beginning, that knows all things, that is almighty, that is omnipotent. It is a spirit. But some of us can't fathom that because we weren't taught that. But let me keep going. Okay, so in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So the heavens is within, right? The heavens is your spiritual self. Your heavens is your etheric bodies. Your heavens is your chakras. Your heavens is things that you can't see with physical eyes, right? You can't physically see heaven. Why? Because heaven is not a physical dimension. Earth is a physical dimension. And everything you see on earth is physical. Everything that's connected to the earth is physical. So this is how a lot of people get confused between what is physical and what is non-physical. Because the spirit is non-physical. The soul is non-physical. These are things you cannot see with your physical eyes. These are things you have to tap into with your spiritual essence. So now you got to use your intuition. Now you got to use your discernment. Now you have to use your ability to comprehend. Now you got to use your understanding. Now you got to use your knowledge that you have and put it together in order to see the bigger picture. Now you have to go within. Now you can't rely on things that's on the surface. You have to actually go deeper. And the only way you could go deeper is by going within. Because you are an ocean of emotions. A sea. Because in the beginning there was water, like a primordial sea. Those are your emotions. So that's who you are. You are emotions. And your emotions wanted to experience life in physical form. So your emotions, the primordial being the sea, embodied a part of itself and created a personality that is you in order to experience life. So that's the soul contract. So under the soul contract is terms and conditions of how you will experience your life. Who will be in your life? Who will affect your life? Who will bring out your best? Who will bring out your worst? All is in your soul contract. Why? Because the emotions wanted energy and motion, wanted to experience life in human form. So your blood is water. Your blood is seawater, right? Like ocean water. Ocean water is salt water. Your blood is salt water. Your blood comes from your heart. Your heart is a vessel that creates this energy that keeps you alive called a beating heart. The moment your heart stops beating, the soul contract is over with. Why? Because the terms and conditions have ended. So your soul contract has everything to do with your heart. Now your heart is also the earth. There is no coincidence that earth and heart are spelled the exact same. Heart. Wait a minute, what is it? H. The heart is spelled Hearth. No, wait. I need to write it down because I can't. Hold up. Yeah. The heart is spelled Heart. The earth is spelled Earth. So if we were to take the H off of heart and put it in the back of the T, we would have earth. And then if we were to take the H off the back of earth and put it in front of the E, we would have heart. So that made clearly there are some things that you have to work on in order to straighten out your heart and your earth and know the difference between the two. Because a lot of us take things to heart. We do. We take a lot of earthly matters to heart. And it affects our feelings. And we call that brokenness. We call that enduring pain. We call that feeling emotions. Emotions such as jealousy, envy, betrayal, anger, all these different emotions that you experience in your heart on earth. And you have to balance them out. That's alchemy, right? That's where you use your words. That's where you find the problem and you become the solution and you start speaking life on earth because you are God. Why? Because He, our Father, arts in your heart. Did you spell out heart? Heart say He art. Who art? The energy. The creative energy arts in your heart. So you have the birthright to be a creator because the creators came before you. You are a direct descendant of the creators. Your parents created you, did they? Okay. So you inherited the creation gene in the genetics. This is Genesis. Also in Genesis talks about the primordial seed, which is your emotions. Genesis talks about the light of this world, which is your consciousness. Genesis speaks of the heart, the earth. Genesis speaks of your family tree, which is in the Garden of Eden. This is a spiritual garden. This is not a physical place. You are the Garden of Eden. Why? Because you're a tree. You're a plant. You connected to the ground. You walk. When somebody step on you, what happened to a plant? It springs back up. Have you went outside and watched? Go step on some plants and sit there and watch them spring back up from the earth. When I explained that we sprung forth from the earth, this is how we were created. There is biblical stories about us springing up from the Nile River. We called this Nile River the Moor. Yeah, we called the land the Moor in Genesis. The Moor, the M-U-R, the M-U-U-R, the Moor. Yeah, we called the land the Moor, the Moorland. Okay? So, we spoke about coming from this Nile River. We talk about coming from this moorland. We talk about springing forth from this earth, the heart. We spoke about springing forth into this reality. So here we know that the Nile River, because we study history, we know that ancient America sprung forth from the Nile River. We know that the land sprung forth from the Nile River. It sprung forth from the mud. That is, the water produced land. Because in the Bible, it tells us that we inherited the land from the ancestors. So if your ancestors are the Atlanteans, that's the water, the primordial beings. If they passed on land, that land becomes an ancestral plot. That land becomes ancestral generation. That land becomes generational wealth. That land becomes your birthright. In the Bible, it talks about Adam and Eve coming into existence. It talks about Adam and Eve having two sons. They two sons did not get along. Cain and Abel. Why? Abel was a righteous man and Cain wasn't. Abel was able to produce harvest. Cain wasn't. Abel had favor. Cain didn't. So, Cain unalived Abel. That was jealousy. That was envious. That was gluttony. That was all the 7 deadly sins. So he became what is known as a sinner, an unrighteous person, a dark entity. You seen the movie. He became a fallen angel. He fell from grace. That's why God cursed him. He became a cursed man. Because it was about the status of his heart. He wasn't right in his heart. So, Cain, a marked man that lived in Canaan, hypothetically speaking, this is my theory. What if Canaan is Canada? That's my theory. What if Canaan is Canada? Because he was sent to his own land where he was cursed. Okay. So when he got sent to his own land and he was cursed, his brother's blood cried out from the land as well. So there was another land. Because in the Book of the Dead, it say it's two lands. Okay. So, after Cain and Abel came Abraham. Wait. Noah. We'll talk about Noah. Because Noah came from that bloodline, right? 7 generations from Adam. And one of those generations is Enoch. We read the book of Enoch. We know Enoch was an Ethiopian, correct? A lot of people don't focus in on that part, but I do. Because a lot of us want to bash the Ethiopians. And right now, if you're on TikTok, it's a lot of, we're not the Africans and all this and all that and this and that and this and that. But it was called a Kibu line. Scipio Africanus is a Roman soldier, to my understanding. But anyway, Americo Vucci is an Italian soldier. But okay, let's focus. I probably said his name wrong, but you know what I meant. But anyway, back to talking about ancient alchemy. Back to talking about Noah. So we've been learning that Noah lived in Florida, right? What we call Florida. Noah was a Floridian. We know he was a Floridian because did you know that it was East Florida and West Florida? West Florida is what you know as Georgia. It was all called Florida at one point in time. Because we speak about how that's the Roman Empire. We speak about how that's the original Roman Empire that they talk about in the Bible when they talking about how St. Augustine was the first oldest place in America. They have cathedrals there. And in those cathedrals, they have the Pope Peter. I got an image of Peter, the black Pope that is there. That is the image. That is the image of the Pope that is actually in the basement of this basilica that is located inside of St. Augustine, Florida Basilica, aka what used to be ancient Rome. We have documentation that they were excavating monuments. We have documentation that our history has been reconstructed. We have documentation that we have been miseducated. So if that's so hard for you to believe, please go enlighten yourself about being miseducated. John D. Rockefeller miseducation system. Please go enlighten yourself about the Crusades. Please enlighten yourself about being converted. Because the Indians were converted into Christians. The Indians weren't Christians. The Indians were Israelites. And if you know anything about the Israelites don't worship false gods. They don't worship false idols. They don't worship graven images. They don't bow down. They don't bow down to anything outside of them. See, the Israelites had a way of life called culture. Now, the Israelite culture was infected by the Catholicism religion because that was the Crusades of the Crusaders. Gratitude, if I could have y'all hit the like button, gratitude, that would be wonderful. If you liking the content, gratitude. Okay, so Noah, we have documentation that the gopher wood comes from Florida. We have there are plants that are listed in Genesis that are indigenous to Florida. So we know Noah was a Floridian. We know Noah built the ark out of the gopher wood that is in Florida. That's a fact. So the fact that we traced Noah back to Florida, we know Enoch was in Florida too. So we're also going to throw in Abraham. Why? Because we found Abraham. Why? Because Abraham is a great grandson of Noah. We read in the book of Asher that's missing out of Genesis about how Abraham had to go live at Noah's camp because the ancient ruler Nimrod was unaliving all the little boys in the land that were Israelites. Why? Because he did not want anyone in his family to rise up into power. So that has been a generational curse of the Israelites, unaliving their own to be in power. Do y'all know people that's doing that? Because it's happening right now on this planet, on this earth, in these hearts. It's happening. People will unalive you for your power. People will unalive you for your position. People will unalive you because they feel that you have something that they can't get access to. Those are the sins, right? We the sinners, right? So this is in you. It's in you to sin. It's in you. It's a generational curse. It's an energy that curses you, that lives in you because we was cursed. Because we want to separate ourselves from Cain. But you forgot Cain and Abel was twins. Then when we go and elaborate even further, we go to Abraham and how Abraham had to live outside the city. He couldn't even live in his own land. Why? Because he was a threat to his own land. Why? Because if you have power in your land, someone in your land wants your power. So remember, we talked about this not just physical and spiritual. So if you have all these ancestors that lived in the earth, where are they at now? They still in the earth, right? Because nobody physical has ever left the earth. Nobody's Ka has ever left the earth. The Ka is the spirit. So where is the spirit at? In you? Okay. So that spirit that's in you, that ain't right. Is fighting the right spirit. So that's the spiritual war. That jealous spirit inside of you is fighting the spirit that's not jealous. That hateful spirit inside of you is fighting the spirit that's not hateful. That wise spirit that's in you is not fighting the foolish spirit. It's a constant battle all day long. Why? Because this has been going on for a very long time. It's eternal. There are two lands that are in you. You got righteous in you and you got wicked in you. And they fight all day long. The Bible tell you that. They fighting over who gonna rule. They fighting over who gonna be king. They fighting over what type of man you gonna be. Whether you gonna be wicked or you gonna be right. Because you're able and capable of being wicked. Why? Because the wicked man live in you. Cain live in you. Nimrod live in you. These your ancestors. Esau. That's why Genesis is important, because it make you go back and learn about these people. Because if these people are my ancestors, and these people have access to my genes, these people have access to my Isis, these people have access to my anatomy, my biology, my genetics, my birthrights. The fight has always been about the birthright. So the fight is still about the birthright. So now I have to learn what is my birthright so I can protect it. Because now I'm realizing I'm more than meets the eye. I'm a guardian of the galaxy. I have to protect my birthright. My birthright is to be an alchemist. My birthright is to be a high priest. My birthright is to be a healer. My birthright is to heal my bloodline. I have a right to do that. I wouldn't have access to the knowledge to do these things if it wasn't granted on to me. We were the high priest of Salem. You go back and check your Bible. It say Melchizedek is a high priest, an alchemist priest from Kemet. Kemet is Egypt. Before Egypt fell. Because Egypt fell, it was Kemet. And it fell and became Egypt. Because the Greek conquered it and named it Egypt when it fell from being Kemet. You understand? Because those people that conquered Egypt, they allowed those sinners, they allowed those low frequency entities, they allowed those wicked men to rule over them from within. So when you allow that energy to defeat you from within, you become that energy. So when you become that energy, you become that wicked person that will oppress other people. You become that wicked person that will do things like unaliving all your family so you could be in charge. Because these are the things that the wicked men have did since the beginning of time. But in Genesis, I just wanted to bring it full circle about these ancient Egyptian gods that we will learn more about are connected to your spirit, because this is how your spirit is built. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It's a spiritual kingdom. And these deities live there. They're ancient deities. Ancient Kemetic deities that you must build back up. Why? Because it failed. So you must rebuild Kemet, because Isis is a builder. Isis rebuilds things. Isis revives things. But when you realize that you are Isis, then you will start healing and rebuilding and accessing your Israelite magic, which is Hebrew, which is the ability to speak life over anything, which is the ability to heal anything that has died. When you are able to speak life and heal toxic situations, when you are able to tap into your divinity and access your ancestral divinity, this is your magic. This is your ability to become a magi. These are the people that was in the Bible. The magi, the astrologists, the people who searched the stars, the people who had this knowledge on how to build pyramids in alignment with the stars, the people that knew that the soul would travel and navigate through the stars, the people who knew how to align your body so that your soul and spirit can return back to where it came from. They had this supernatural knowledge of worlds and dimensions beyond this one. But I wanted to start off with Genesis to let you know that Genesis is about genes. Genesis is about genetics. Genesis is about biology and anatomy. Genesis is about your origin points. Genesis is historical records. It explains to you that the first place that we lived was Canaan. That was a cursed land. We moved from this cursed land and we went to what was known as Babylon. We went to go live in what was called Babylon. Babylon was a kingdom. And we lived in Babylon with these wicked rulers such as Nimrod and Nebuchadnezzar. We actually lived in Babylon. Once we left Babylon, Babylon is more of the New York region. Once we left Babylon, everything morphed and evolved into what is known as Mesopotamia. So Mesopotamia is the coming together of some waters. It's meetings of some waters. So that's more like when we was in Chicago. And Chicago has like Lake Superior, the Huron Lake, the Superior Lake. It was a lot of water involved up in Chicago. So that's why we call that Mesopotamia. Now we have been learning about how Chicago is an ancient city. Chicago has a lot of ancient history. Chicago was a city that was built up with water, surrounded by water. Chicago is very Illinois. We learned about, so let me switch it up here with this, because we learned a lot about Chicago, didn't we, y'all? We did. We learned about the bull, right? We learned about the ancient bull and how the ancient bull, oh, you can't even see it on this image here. Well, we learned how the ancient bull represents wisdom. We used to, and I said that we would, for those of y'all that never seen Abraham, this is Abraham. So this would be a descendant of Noah. And Abraham that's here is also the chief of the Seminole Indians. Because I also explained to us that we are the Indians. And our name, because we are Israelites, but our name has been reclassified so many times that we are lost at sea and we can't figure out who we are. But I'm here to let you know we are the Israelites. That's our nationality. And we had many different nations under that name, because he is the father of the Israelites. So that made him chief of the Seminoles. The Seminoles were any nation of Indian that came together, that got forced out their land, that got exiled out their land, that had to fight against oppression, that had to fight against being conquered, that had to fight for their birthright, that had to fight for their blood right. So this is how the Seminoles came into place. And he was the father of the Seminoles. He was the father of many nations. Is the Seminoles many nations? Yes, it is. It was the Gola, it was the Geechee people. Gola and Geechee people, two different people. But he brought them together, right? You had the Aztecs, you had the Inca, you had the Mayans, you had the Mohawk Indians, you had the Powhatan Indians, you had the Blackfoot Indians, you had the Creek Indians, you had all these different nations being forced out their land. North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware. You had people getting forced out their lands. The 13 colonies, yeah, they conquered them. They told you that at school. They conquered them. Those was the 13 tribes. Why? Because Jacob, his grandson, Because Abraham had Isaac, right? Abraham got a son named Isaac, right? Abraham got a baby by a woman that's from Egypt, right? So is it hard for you to fathom that he the father of the Egyptians? Is that hard for you to fathom that? Is it hard for you to fathom that he had a baby by an Arabic woman, so he became the father of the Islamic nation? Is that hard for you to fathom that? Because some of y'all can't fathom that because you don't study your history. Because if you knew that he was the father of Ishmael, which grew up to be a Islamic nation, they practiced Islam, even though they was the Egyptians. They was a practicing Islam because his mother name was Hagar and she was an Egyptian, right? So she taught her son about Ra. She taught her son about Tefnut. She taught her son about Isis. Why? Because that's culture. It wasn't religion. It's culture. It's a part of life. It's a way of life. It's your rituals. It's your birthright. And as a part of that, he had to learn how to master peace. That's Islam. That's reading the Quran. Being able to rightly divide the word of truth. The Quran talk about the children of Israel. The Quran talk about the formation of the universe. The Quran talk about mastering peace. The Quran tells you how to take care of your body. That's why that division of it is called muscles and limbs. Because it's teaching you how to care for the body. The Bible is telling you about your history. Your Bible is telling you where you come from. Your Bible is giving you a clue about your earth. That's why it's called basic instructions before leaving earth. So you got your basic instructions before leaving earth and you match that up with your Islamic knowledge. Your ability to master self. Because it was one. But when the conqueror came divided and conquered and destroyed and lied and steal and killed, that's how everything got confused. That's how everything became a mess. That's where the war came in at, right? Because it was many different wars. Wars are confusion in the mind. Okay, so Abraham, father of many nations, father of the Seminoles. It hit different when you know these things, don't it? It make the Bible look different. Because now you're looking at the Bible like, wow, Noah was really here. And he really built this ark. And he really was a high priestess. And he really was a magician. And he really knew how to alchemize things on the earth. He really knew how to heal. He really had a relationship with the ancestors. He really could talk to extraterrestrial realms. He really could tap into that. When I say extraterrestrial realms, I'm talking about our ancestors, are the extraterrestrials. Because we are the terrestrials. If you look up the Earth is a terrestrial planet. So the Earthlings are terrestrial beings. Our ancestors, which are no longer physical, are extraterrestrial beings. He was able to make intercession with the ancestors, which would be Adam, because Adam gave him the skin. Adam passed on the skin, the generational skin, the family suit. Inside your family suit, your skin, you have all type of access to ancestors. That's your X-Men suit. That's your ability to be supernatural. That's your ability to do things. That's your protection. That's your guidance. It's a lot of built-in gadgets in this suit. Because we are from the cosmos. Stay woke. All the cosmic books are about the cosmic people. Stay woke. They know who you are, but do you know who you are? Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap up this first video about Genesis. And we basically spoke about Noah. We spoke about Enoch. We spoke about Methuselah. That's Enoch's daddy. We spoke about how these were magicians. We spoke about how they lived up in the trees. If we didn't, they lived up in these gigantic cypress trees. These cypress trees were large enough to carve you a house inside the tree. So they would carve houses and cities inside these trees. And they would live in these massive trees like on Avatar. They had tree houses and tree people. And they lived in the trees. And they was one with the heavens because they were so high up in the trees. Now these people were larger than us because they accessed more of their brain than we did. They had access to, they was up in these trees, so they had higher access in the mountains. The atmosphere changes when you get closer to the mountains. So they breathed a different type of air. You know, they had access to a different type of frequency. But we fell from that when these trees fell down. Because you know Jack and the Beanstalk, right? You seen Jack and the Beanstalk? Yeah, because we Jack. You have to think about we're Jackson. We're Johnson. We are. So we're Yah's son. It's telling you what happened to Yah's son. But they changed the name to Jack. So you wouldn't recognize yourself because you are Yah's son. You understand that? Okay, so in Jack and the Beanstalk, it talks about us being able to access this tree where we could go to and fro in the earth. It talks about that in the Bible. It talks about in Jacob's ladder being able to ascend and descend from this tree. This tree is a cosmic tree. It's your ancestry. It's your garden of life tree. It's your garden of Eden tree. It's that tree. But you have access to this tree that's spiritual where you can climb up the tree and make intercession with your ancestors or not. Well, in Jack and the Beanstalk, if you know anything about Solomon, which we got to get to that, but Solomon is the Lord of the Rings. Solomon has the ability to control the 360-degree ring. And as long as he had that knowledge and power of how to control that 360-degree ring, he was Lord of the Rings. Well, honey, he lost that ring. That ring got stole. And when that ring got stole, the entities that were being controlled now possess the control of the ring. But they don't have the correct power to use it. So therefore, they got to cipher it from us. Therefore, they got to trick it out of us. Therefore, they need to hypnotize us and use our solar energy to get this ring to work. Because they don't have souls. They need our intelligence, which is soul, to make that ring work. Because they don't have it. They're artificial intelligent. Now they need real people, real living, breathing souls to help make everything work because they not living, breathing souls. So do you understand why your conscience is being, it's a fight over your conscience? Because you have entities that don't have souls that want to access yours. You have entities that don't have life that want to live yours. You have entities that are in the dark but want to be in the light. You have entities that had an opportunity to live and now they want to live through you. This is parasitic energy. These are parasites that live within us. These are living, breathing organisms that live within us, a parasite. But a parasite needs a host in order for it to live. So you are being invaded by foreign entities that want to host off your existence. That is what a vampire is. It is something that lives within you, that is absorbing your energy, that is absorbing your frequency, that is absorbing everything that is you. And it has complete control over you because it wants you unconscious so it could dwell and live through you. And this is how we become wicked. Because now you unconscious of yourself and you unaware that this energy is controlling every aspect of your life. This energy is killing, stealing, and destroying everything that you built. This energy is killing, stealing, and destroying everything that you got. That's what a parasitic energy do. It showed you that in Men in Black, how people have energies living inside of them. Everything ain't what it seems. But our ancient ancestors were alchemists, healers. They had knowledge of herbs. They can detox these parasitic energies. They knew how to heal you from these parasitic energies. That's why they were the high priest of Salem. They were the high priest and high priestess of Salem. They wore white. They was healers. They were conjure men and conjure women. They used conjure music. They used conjure songs. They used laying hands. They would come together and on one accord and heal you. They would speak life over you. They would cast out demonic spirits. They would have exorcisms over you because they knew that these energies were diseases and disorders, and they knew how to deal with them. The ancient Aztecs, the ancient Mayans, the ancient Incas. You can go back to the ancient Olmec people, knew how to do this. And we are all those people biblically. We are those people. We could trace our ancestry back to those people. We could trace our historical roots back to those people. We could pull out historical facts and receipts that we are those people. So gratitude for joining into spiritual situation, because that's what I'm over here doing. I want you to know that you are a people that needs to learn about self, because you are a fantastic people. You are amazing people. You are a people that have a rich history that needs to be explained, that needs to be learned, that needs to be in tune with, that needs to be taught to the next generation. We are these people of the land. We are these people that inherited the land from our ancestors. We are these people that inherited these ancestral gifts to heal, these ancestral gifts to prophesy, these ancestral gifts to discern, these ancestral gifts to speak life over one another. These are our ancestral gifts. And we have to learn how to tap into it, because we have been destroyed for lack of knowledge of self. So it is a time where we are going to get self back in a position to win. So gratitude to everyone who joined into this live today. If you can, share the live. Gratitude. If you are watching the live and made it this far, can you please hit the like button? Like buttons are very important. Gratitude. Yes. So I will see y'all on another live. Gratitude for joining into this one. And just remember, take what you need and leave what you don't. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. If you study differently, that's fine. I am not here to make anybody take my knowledge. I'm just sharing my knowledge. Because when you share your knowledge, you have a lot of people who would like to argue. You have a lot of people who want to inbox you and say this isn't right and that isn't right. Not asking you where did you get it from. Not asking you could you elaborate. No, you have people actually coming for you. Then you have people that don't want the knowledge coming for you. Then you have people who don't even study and it don't make sense to them because they didn't make it make sense coming for you. And it's like it's you have to know the difference. You have to be able to truly know the difference on why everyone is like that, right? Okay. So I will talk to y'all beautiful souls real soon. Peace.